This is flip video 6.3, international trade. It's also the last flip video, so we've made it to the end. So there's two ways that a country can practice trade. They can either practice free trade or they can practice protectionism. So free trade is just trade without restrictions. So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's free, so there's no restrictions on the trade that's occurring. So some positives of free trade is we're going to get the cheapest possible product. This is when we're going to have true specialization that happens. So if you remember comparative advantage all the way back in Unit 1, this is where it comes back in determining who is going to make that particular product. This will also lead to the more efficient use of our limited resources. But some of the cons, some of the downsides to free trade is that there's going to be some job loss. There's going to be a lot of domestic job loss because of outsourcing. So companies are going to find those cheaper labor countries and outsource a lot of their lower labor jobs there. And it can also turn into a lot of economic reliance on other countries. If we have to get a particular product from another country, we're kind of at their disposal basically, or at their mercy to give us a product. The other type of trade is protectionism, and this just limits trade to protect domestic industries. So if we look at this from the U.S. perspective, we're looking at protecting U.S. industries. So some positives of protectionism is we're going to protect those domestic industries. We're going to make sure that our farming industry stays alive, that our steel industry, our car industry, our tech industry is going to stay alive with trade. It will also protect our GDP. So while we keep all these companies alive, when we're trading internationally, we're going to be able to protect our GDP because of limited trade. This will also protect domestic jobs, so we're going to have a little bit less job loss due to outsourcing because we're protecting these industries that might be really tempted by outsourcing. Some of the downsides to practicing protectionism is we're going to have a lot of increased prices on goods and services and commodity prices. So we're going to have kind of like a skyrocket of our prices here. And then we're also going to have an increase in nominal wages. A lot of our lower labor jobs are still going to require minimum wage. So we can't outsource those in protectionism to lower waged countries. So why would a country practice protectionism even though free trade is the more, a better option for a country economically? Well, protectionism is going to make us more self-reliant. We're going to have to force the country to make products that maybe we get from other countries, and it's going to make us more reliant if we make those ourselves. There can also be really high transportation costs if we're free trading. So try and get some of these bigger products, across oceans and stuff like that will be really, really expensive. We also want to avoid dependence on other countries for strategic reasons, so either political or economic reasons. We want to avoid that dependence. And then there's a lot of national pride and culture about buying made in the USA products. So what exactly does protectionism look like? Well, we use a variety of trade barriers to limit trade. So we use tariffs, import quotas, and embargoes when we are implementing protectionism. So we do have trade agreements like NAFTA, and we have, about 150 other free trade agreements with countries across the world. And so there is the word free trade. We even see in this little picture here, the word free, but it's not really free. It's just a limit of the tariffs and the quotas. So it's not actually free trade in those agreements. It's just a limited form of protectionism in those free trade agreements.